There's a bottle sitting in kitchens across the Mediterranean that people have been calling liquid gold for thousands of years, but recently scientists have given it an even more remarkable nickname: liquid longevity. We're talking about olive oil. And if you think it's just another cooking fat, you're missing one of the most powerful tools available for extending not just your lifespan, but your health span. Welcome to Elderly Discoveries, where today we're diving deep into why olive oil has become the subject of intense scientific research, and why cardiologists, neurologists, and gerontologists are all recommending it as an essential part of healthy aging. Let me start with something that'll grab your attention. People living in regions where olive oil is a dietary staple, places like Crete, Sardinia, and certain parts of Spain, have some of the lowest rates of heart disease, cancer, and dementia in the entire world. They're also living longer, healthier lives well into their 90s and beyond. For decades, researchers wondered if this was just good genetics or lifestyle, but study after study has pointed to one common denominator: the abundant consumption of high-quality olive oil. We're not talking about a drizzle here and there. Traditional Mediterranean populations consume anywhere from 3 to 5 tablespoons daily, and their bodies are reaping extraordinary benefits. The first thing you need to understand about olive oil is that it's fundamentally different from almost every other fat you can buy. When you press olives, you're getting pure fruit juice, not something extracted through chemical processes or extreme heat. This matters enormously because extra virgin olive oil retains over 200 different bioactive compounds that are destroyed or absent in refined oils. These compounds work synergistically in ways that scientists are still discovering, but what we already know is absolutely fascinating. Let's start with your heart, because cardiovascular disease remains the #1 killer of older adults worldwide. Olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, particularly oleic acid, which makes up about 70 to 80% of its composition. Unlike saturated fats that can increase harmful LDL cholesterol, oleic acid actually improves your cholesterol profile by raising protective HDL cholesterol while lowering the oxidized LDL that damages arterial walls. But here's where it gets interesting. It's not just about the fat content. The polyphenol in olive oil, compounds like oleocanthal and hydroxytyrosol, have potent anti-inflammatory effects that protect blood vessels from damage. There was a landmark study called PRIDIME that followed over 7,000 people at high cardiovascular risk for nearly 5 years. Participants were randomly assigned to different diets, and those consuming a Mediterranean diet supplemented with extra virgin olive oil showed a 30% reduction in major cardiovascular events like heart attacks and strokes compared to the control group. 30%. That's comparable to or better than many medications, and we're talking about food here, not pharmaceuticals with lists of side effects. Your brain is another area where olive oil demonstrates remarkable protective effects. As we age, cognitive decline and dementia become increasingly common concerns, and the standard medical approach offers limited solutions. But populations with high olive oil consumption show significantly lower rates of Alzheimer's disease and cognitive impairment. The mechanism appears to involve multiple pathways. First, the healthy fats support the structure of brain cell membranes, which are largely composed of fatty acids. Second, the anti-inflammatory compounds reduce chronic brain inflammation, which is now recognized as a major driver of neurodegenerative diseases. Perhaps most exciting is research showing that oleocanthal, one of the key polyphenol in olive oil, helps clear beta-amyloid plaques from the brain. These are the protein deposits that characterize Alzheimer's disease. Studies in mice have shown that oleocanthal increases the activity of enzymes that degrade these plaques, essentially helping the brain clean itself. While human trials are still ongoing, observational studies consistently show that people who consume olive oil regularly maintain better memory, processing speed, and overall cognitive function as they age. There's also compelling evidence around cancer prevention, particularly for breast cancer, colorectal cancer, and others common in older populations. The polyphenol in olive oil have been shown to interfere with cancer development at multiple stages, from preventing DNA damage to inhibiting tumor growth and even promoting cancer cell death. A meta-analysis of over 19 case-control studies found that the highest olive oil consumption was associated with a 34% reduction in cancer risk compared to the lowest consumption. These aren't small effects we're talking about. These are substantial reductions in disease risk from something as simple as choosing the right oil. Now let's talk about inflammation, because this is really the common thread tying all these benefits together. Chronic low-grade inflammation is the underlying factor in virtually every age-related disease, from arthritis to heart disease to diabetes to Alzheimer's. It's why inflammation is often called the silent killer. Olive oil contains a compound called oleocanthal that works similarly to ibuprofen in blocking inflammatory pathways, but without the gastrointestinal side effects. When researchers tested fresh extra virgin olive oil, they found that consuming about 3.5 tablespoons provides an anti-inflammatory effect comparable to 10% of an adult dose of ibuprofen. Think about that for a moment. By regularly consuming olive oil, you're getting a daily dose of natural anti-inflammatory medicine that's protecting every organ system in your body. Over months and years, this adds up to significantly reduced disease risk and better overall health. People who've switched to using olive oil as their primary fat often report improvements in joint pain, digestive issues, and overall energy levels within weeks. The benefits extend to metabolic health as well, which is crucial for healthy aging. Type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome affect millions of older adults and dramatically increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, kidney failure, and other complications. Multiple studies have shown that olive oil improves insulin sensitivity and helps regulate blood sugar levels. The PRIDIME trial found that the Mediterranean diet with olive oil reduced the incidence of type 2 diabetes by over 40% compared to a low-fat diet. For people already managing diabetes, incorporating olive oil has been shown to improve glycemic control and reduce the need for medication. Your bones benefit too, which is particularly important given that osteoporosis affects 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men over 50. Research has found that olive oil consumption is associated with higher bone density and reduced fracture risk. The polyphenol appear to stimulate bone formation while reducing bone breakdown, helping maintain skeletal strength even as we age. This is especially valuable because bone health is often overlooked until a fracture occurs, and by then significant damage has already happened. Here's something most people don't realize. The quality of olive oil matters enormously, and unfortunately, much of what's sold as extra virgin olive oil doesn't meet the standard. Studies testing supermarket olive oils have found that up to 70% are adulterated, either mixed with cheaper refined oils or are simply old and oxidized. When olive oil oxidizes, it loses most of its beneficial polyphenol and can actually become harmful. So how do you choose real, high-quality extra virgin olive oil? Look for oils in dark glass bottles or tins, never clear plastic. Check for a harvest date, not just a best-by date. Olive oil is fresh pressed fruit juice and should be consumed within 18 months of harvest. The label should specify the region and ideally the specific estate where olives were grown. Quality olive oil will have a peppery, slightly bitter taste at the back of your throat. That tickle or cough you might feel is actually the oleocanthal, the anti-inflammatory compound. If it tastes flat or greasy, it's either low quality or oxidized. It's also worth noting that you shouldn't be afraid to cook with olive oil. There's a persistent myth that olive oil has a low smoke point and shouldn't be heated, but this is false. Extra virgin olive oil is actually quite stable for cooking due to its high antioxidant content and monounsaturated fat profile. Studies have shown it withstands normal cooking temperatures without significant degradation. The Mediterranean populations we're studying have been cooking with olive oil for millennia, and they're the ones with exceptional health outcomes. So how should you incorporate it into your daily routine? Start by replacing butter, margarine, and vegetable oils with olive oil. Use it for sautéing vegetables. Drizzle it over salads. Mix it into yogurt or cottage cheese. Dip whole grain bread in it. Add it to smoothies, or simply take a tablespoon straight. Traditional Mediterranean populations consume it throughout the day in various ways. Some elderly Italians and Greeks still practice the morning ritual of taking a spoonful of olive oil on an empty stomach, believing it cleanses and protects the body, and science is increasingly validating this folk wisdom. One important consideration is that olive oil is calorie-dense, with about 120 calories per tablespoon. But here's the thing. The fat in olive oil is highly satiating. It triggers the release of hormones that signal fullness and satisfaction, meaning you'll likely eat less overall. Studies comparing high-quality fat consumption to low-fat diets consistently show that people consuming healthy fats like olive oil have an easier time maintaining a healthy weight and report greater meal satisfaction. The longevity regions of the world, those blue zones where people routinely live past 100 in good health, all share olive oil as a dietary cornerstone. It's not a coincidence. When you combine the cardiovascular protection, the brain health benefits, the anti-inflammatory effects, the cancer prevention, the metabolic improvements, and the bone support, you're looking at comprehensive whole-body protection against the diseases and decline we've come to associate with aging. This isn't about adding years of frailty and dependence. It's about extending your healthy, vibrant years, maintaining your independence, your mental clarity, your physical capability. That's what olive oil offers, a simple, delicious, scientifically validated path to better aging. The people of the Mediterranean have known this intuitively for thousands of years. Now we have the research to explain exactly why their liquid gold deserves to be called liquid longevity. Thanks for joining us on Elderly Discoveries, where we uncover the simple truths that can transform your aging journey.